Hi y'all. Thank you so much for joining me on another video. I am so sorry it has been 3 weeks since I did a video. Oh my goodness, things have been so busy. Um, Part of the reason that I've been delayed in a video is 2 weeks ago I went to Colorado. Um, for not the best of circumstances. It was for a celebration of life for a very dear friend's parents as well as son. Um, so it wasn't the best of situations, but it was a very relaxing trip. I was there for 5 days. My daughter and her boyfriend and another one of their childhood friends all went with us in my van. And it was an interesting drive. Going there, we got kind of, I don't know, turned around or something. And what was supposed to have been 8.5 hour drive took like, I don't know, 10 or 11. So, but saw way more cows than I think I have in my lifetime up until now. But it was really nice. It was relaxing. Of course, it's Colorado. Went up in the mountains. I've never seen mountains in my life. Um, so that was very wonderful. And had a lot of reconnection. Y'all, I was called Grandma Penny so much that whole weekend because the friend was the mother of my daughter's best friend since the summer of fifth grade. So all of the other friends that they all grew up with, my daughter grew up with, was there also. And they had kids, and they had grown up calling me mama. I was just another mama, and they had their kids call me Grandma Penny. Y'all, my heart was so full. I felt like my heart was going to explode. It was just so awesome at the reconnections that were happening. Um, and even meeting new friends. Met another friend. Met a friend there. She was a friend of the friend whose parents had passed away, and she and I clicked like immediately. So I've got another daughter, and because she was calling me Mama Penny. All in all, it was wonderful connections. A lot of good came out of a not so good situation. So it was very fulfilling. So trying to recoup from that. Um, and just a lot of overtime at work. More overtime than, yeah, but so I barely had time to even breathe. And then my new position at church, we had our first outreach last Saturday, and it was awesome. We served roughly 150 people, so that was really good. Um, and we still had stuff left over enough to donate to the city mission afterwards. I mean, everybody took, we didn't have any limits. We told them, take what you want, take what you need, and we still had some left over. I felt like it was the loaves and fishes. It was amazing. And so with that new position, I'm doing more in addition to the overtime at work and working, and oh, so I've barely had time to breathe. So I really appreciate y'all sticking around for these videos. I'm sorry it took so long. Tonight I want to talk about something that happened sometime this week. I have actually gone 3 weeks without a trigger. I mean, a major trigger. I've had a few minor triggers. In fact, the trip up to Colorado, I had a minor trigger. A song kind of triggered me a little bit. But this week, after 3 weeks, which I'm taking it as a victory, I had a pretty major trigger. It was a customer that was being not nice. And I want to say worse, but I'm trying to keep it clean on here. And being condescending and belligerent, and it triggered me, and I started crying. But what really triggered me, it kind of came out of the blue at first, and I guess I was still sensitive, and then the customer escalated it, and that's gonna happen. And in fact, ironically, some people that I follow on Instagram, they talk a lot about trauma because they're foster parents, and they deal a lot with trauma, of course, foster kids, and talk about how out of the blue trauma will happen. Not trauma, but a trigger or a flashback will happen. And that's about what had happened with me. About 3 weeks, couple of days ago, it was Wednesday, I believe. And it just came out of nowhere. And, I'm thinking I was so mad because it's like I've gone 3 weeks without it, and then now my body decides, bam, wants to do it. It wants to get into a trauma. I know what triggered it. I'm sorry, y'all. My brain is in a fog. There was a customer that was actually kind of nice, but he had a type of voice that, I don't know, I guess it may be in the back of my mind or something. It triggered me. It was a sultry type voice. I mean, he wasn't trying to be sultry. He was professional. He was from a dental office, but it's just something about that voice just totally set me off, and then my body started reacting. Usually with me, if I start getting triggered, my legs will get real tight, and that's what started happening. Not to the extent that it had in the past, but I recognized the symptoms, and I'm like, what's going on? Okay, it's just a voice. And he wasn't trying to be any sort of way. He was being himself. And it just triggered. And it was like, oh my goodness, what the heck? And then I got mad because it's like I've gone 3 weeks without a trigger. I've been doing fine. What's going on? And so I text my therapist, and he's like, 3 weeks? That's awesome. That's an improvement. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I shouldn't be having any. And he's like, hello? And I'm like, yeah, it's gonna happen. I keep telling myself I'm a year and a half out now, almost. I mean, in this time last year, I was going through the waiting period for my divorce, waiting for when we could file for the default hearing. He had already been served his papers, and we had to give him the 60 days to reply. And it was this time last year that we were waiting for him to either reply or file for the default hearing, default judgment. So I think that may have had something to do with it too. But I'm like, here I am, almost a year and a half out, almost a full year divorced. I should be over this. No. I mean, I'm making improvements. I mean, like I said, I went 3 solid weeks without a major trigger. So that's a victory. But I have been traumatized for 40 years, all total, including my father. My ex, it seems that my ex did most of the trauma, because a lot of my childhood trauma I had been able to get past. But with my ex, he brought up a lot of childhood trauma to use against me. So, of course, it stirred all of that up, and, well, yeah. But all total, I've been going through trauma for 40 years. So, it's not going to be overnight. You know, my wonderful sister-in-law, who has wisdom, said that, you say it's been a year and a half. What you should say is, it's only been a year and a half. And I try to keep reminding myself of that, but again, as I've mentioned in many, many videos, I want things now, not later. God is definitely dealing with me on patience. So, because I, wave my magic wand, bling, 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 it's done. But it doesn't happen like that. And so, I guess I'm wanting to say that when you're going through this and you're going through healing, don't be mad or frustrated when you're not going as far as you think you should in the healing process. For starters, everybody heals differently. I've been told that I'm healing pretty quickly. I don't think I am, but if that is the case, I attribute it to God. Because it's not on my own strength, that's for sure. I just attribute it to God giving me the strength to be able to bounce back. I'm been like that pretty much most of my life, where I've been able to bounce back quick. That's just how God has made me. But that in no way takes away from someone who heals at a slower pace. Y'all, I'm sorry, I've got ants in the pants or something. I gotta keep moving. But that doesn't take away from someone who heals at a slower pace. You heal for how you're able to heal, how your body and your mind allows you to heal. Something, even with me, some things are taking longer than others, some to heal. A big thing with me is vulnerability. I don't like being vulnerable, especially my heart. When I give my heart, y'all, I fall. I mean, when I love someone, I love hard. I either love them all the way or I don't love them at all. I don't just love a little bit. And so that puts my heart at such a huge vulnerability, and it's scary. That's part of why I'm not even considering dating right now. I mean, as I've said before, yeah, I would love to know what it feels like to truly love someone, that, or have someone truly love me as much as I love them. But that is just too darn scary for me. I mean, I have considered, there's a couple of people that I've considered asking for coffee, a couple of men, and it's like, no, I can't, because it's too scary. So I just, right now, I'm just doing me. I'm enjoying being single because I've never lived on my own. I went straight from my parents' home to being married and living with my now ex. So I've never had a place of my own, my own place. And I like it. And I like answering only to me. I mean, my youngest lives here still, but he's 20. So he's a young man. He can, and so I'm enjoying that aspect and going from there, because I don't want to be vulnerable right now. I'm not ready to be vulnerable. That's scary as anything to me. And then another way that I don't like being vulnerable is physical, because I was assaulted. I was raped. I was almost raped. I was inappropriately touched. So there's that vulnerability in a physical sense. And in fact, when for the first, week or two that my ex was gone, I was still living in fight or flight, not just with him, because, you don't just shut that off when you've lived in fight or flight for so long. But fight or flight with scared somebody's gonna break in. Even now, I can't sleep with my bedroom door open. Closed. I have to have my bedroom door cracked somewhat, because I want to be able to hear if somebody's trying to break in the house. Which, I'm on the 3rd floor of an apartment building, so that ain't gonna happen. If anybody tries to break into here, it's somebody I know, and they're gonna regret that decision. But I still got to do that in order to feel comfortable. Even now, almost a year and a half out. And it's hard to deal with. That is the toughest thing that I've had to deal with in healing from the trauma is the vulnerability. Because being vulnerable sucks. And when you're vulnerable, is being vulnerable, and that sucks to begin with, but when others take advantage of that vulnerability, that's as scary as crap. I'll be honest. Because that's what my ex did. Y'all, I'm discovering that my ex did, the way he treated me was way more horrible than I thought. Because, like I've told y'all before in previous videos, how he was almost normal to me because of what I dealt with my father. And I'm also thinking that because as a coping mechanism, I was making it less than what it was, kind of sloughing a lot of it off as a coping mechanism. And it really he would use the horriblest, that's not even a word, the most horrible things that I had gone through in my past against me. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned in a previous video that he would recreate certain things that the rapist did in order to trigger me. He would say things that the rapist would say in order to trigger me, because he couldn't get a reaction with the other things that he was saying, because I was either one, desensitized to him because he had said him so much, or because I was controlling how I reacted, because I knew that's what he was doing, was trying to get a reaction out of me. So I didn't want to give him one. So he would do things like that. And he would say the cruelest of things that I don't think I'm ever going to say on camera, because I don't want to run the risk that a child gets, sees this video, because it's stuff that children don't need to hear. Suffice it to say, it's crueler than anything. I will say it deals with my weight, because he knew that was a big thing with me. He knew, if nothing else, he could get a reaction when he talked about my looks or my weight. Which, it got to the point where even trying to trigger me by saying things that the rapist said, that was even starting to not be as sensitive to me, because I knew what he was doing. So he would talk about my looks or my weight, and what my looks and weight were not doing to him. Trying to be discreet, and so I'm asking y'all to kind of read between the lines. And so the thought of putting myself out there like that, even Like there's a couple of men in my church that I've been going to this church for almost 4 years now, that are single. Even hypothetically, they haven't said anything or, you know, but hypothetically, even if one of those men were to come up to me and want to go for coffee or something, I don't think I could. Because even though I know that they would never do anything like what my ex did, to be honest, a majority of the people wouldn't do what my ex did. But I know them especially, known them for almost 4 years, and know that what my ex did would not even come across to them. It's still scary as all get out to put myself out there and want to risk. My heart, y'all, has been torn to shreds. And it's just now starting to come together a little bit. So to want to risk it being broken again or torn, no, I'm not ready. But I kind of got off what I was wanting to talk about. As I've said in previous videos, you're going to get sideswiped by trauma, by flashbacks and triggers. So be easy on yourself when that happens, and don't try to push healing quicker than what you're meant to. Like I said earlier, I tend to bounce back pretty quick. That's just me. But that doesn't mean I'm any better than someone who heals slower, who doesn't bounce back. In fact, in a way, I wish I didn't bounce back as fast, because when you heal slower, it's a more permanent healing. I mean, there are times, like this past week, when I got triggered by a simple man's voice. I feel like I went 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. And it's like, duh, really? But even if that is the case, then I still am ahead by 1 step. So I'm still going forward, just not in the pace that I would like. And many years ago, I look at Paul Washer. He's a preacher who's traveled the world, mainly South American countries and such, as in ministry. And one particular preaching he did, sermon, was talking about the Christian life from when you become saved up until the day the Lord takes you home. And when you look at this, it looks like a straight line from here to here. And you're supposed to move up, in your growth, in your Christian growth. And this is really good for just growth in general. And obviously Christian growth is like I'm about to explain, but so is growth, so is healing from trauma. And it really stuck to me when I went to Colorado 2 weeks ago, and we were driving up the mountains. Um, it was really great because we were going up the mountains, and um, it wasn't a steady climb like this. We were going this way, then this way a little bit, then this way, then this way, then this way. And then there were times when we went down before we went up again. And this is while driving up the mountain. And y'all, this is the Rocky Mountains, and this one was really steep. At least steeper than I've ever been used to. And it really hit home. That's what growth is, either in the Christian walk or healing from trauma. You go up, and then you level off some, and then you go up, and then you may even have to go down. And the down is like the triggers or the flashbacks, but then you go back up again. All the while, you're still going in the general direction of up. It's just not straight up. And in going through those mountains and having that actual experience where you just doing like this while you're going up, it really hit home. It was like, bam! That's exactly what he was talking about. And so when you find yourself having a trigger after even a month or two of not having triggers, it doesn't mean that you're going backwards. It just means you're going to a valley, and then you're going to go back up again. So y'all have a good night and a good week. Love y'all. Thank y'all for being so patient with me. Be blessed. Stay safe out there. And have a good week. Bye.